Laya Healthcare. It's good to live. Proud sponsor of the Real Health podcast with Karl Henry.
Welcome to the Real Health podcast with me, Karl Henry, in association with Laya Healthcare. As ever, with every single show that we do, we get the tips, tools, tricks, and everything you need to know to live a healthier and happier life. And on today's show, that's exactly what we're going to do. You're going to meet Rob and Yvonne Cullen, who have lost over 12 stone in 12 months. So let's find out how they did it. Rob and Yvonne, welcome to the Real Health podcast. How's it going?
Great.
Lovely.
So, your story is incredibly inspirational. I was doing my research over the last few days. I found lots of press clippings online and photographs. I don't quite recognise you by comparison to the photographs I've seen. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves to the listeners and maybe with your starting weight and what your weight is now by way of introduction. So, Yvonne, ladies first.
Yeah, Yvonne, obviously. I work in HSE, so I'm in early intervention there. So nothing to do with weight loss or anything like that. But I joined Slimming World in 2016, and I was 14 stone 6, and I'm 9 stone 3.5 now.
So what's that weight loss in total?
So it's 5 stone 3.5.
Wow.
Yeah.
You don't look big enough to have 5 stone 3.5 pounds of extra weight on you before.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I did. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Rob?
Yeah, Rob Cullen. I work in Dublin Chamber, which is probably where most people would know me, or from Twitter probably, I suppose. Most people would know me from then. And my starting weight in August 2016 was 19 stone 10.
Why? Nearly 20 stone.
Nearly 20 stone, yeah. And now I'm 12 stone 3.5. So just a half a pound away from 7.5 stone.
My goodness.
Yeah.
So you're between you both, you're nearly 13 stone thereabouts.
Yeah. That third person.
That's losing the third person in your marriage, definitely.
Basically lost me just thereabouts. So about 13.5 at the minute. So you basically lost me between the pair of you.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
One of the things we see with people who lose weight is, and we discuss it in podcast episode 1 or 2, is the fact that there's always a trigger point. Something has to happen to make you really want to make those changes. Yeah. What was your trigger point? What made what made you say, right, we have to do this and we're going to do it together? Because a lot of times people do it, one part of the marriage might do it, but not two together. So what was the trigger point?
I think it was probably at the wedding we were at. We went to a wedding in July in Nerca in Spain in 2016. And coming back from the wedding, and then there was a combination of a few things, I suppose, looking at the photographs and things like that, and we just decided we needed to do something. I always tell the same story when I'm talking about weight loss, and you touch on a trigger point, and I always have the same one, is when we went back to collect the kids after the wedding. Yvonne's mum and dad live in Chapel Izzard. We went down to collect them. The kids weren't there, they were down in the park, so we went down to the park to collect them, and we could see in the distance the kids, and they start running towards us and we start running towards them, and I had to stop. I just couldn't run. It was 5 seconds, and I just felt something that I thought it must have been all the drink, the food, everything else that we had partied at the wedding over the last few days. And it was just one of those moments, and I wouldn't be religious, but it was right in front of the Pope's cross. I was born in 1979. Somebody was telling me something, you need to do something. So it was just that moment, and I always go back to it. It was, as I say, I'm not religious or anything, but just something clicked there, and I thought, right, we need to do something. I thought to myself, we need to do something. And then I suppose when we went back to look at the photographs and stuff like that, I know Yvonne was saying when she was looking through the photographs, she didn't even want people to see the photographs. Yeah. So that was probably.
And how did that conversation go in terms of, we're going to lose weight together, or I'm going to do it? Or how did it come about that you both decided to do it?
We were actually at my brother's house in Drogheda, and my brother is 6'2", really fit. Him and his wife, were going to the gym 5 days a week, all this kind of thing or whatever. And we were just chatting away, and he wanted us to do a run amok or one of those kind of
something was on in Connemara.
Things, yeah. And we were saying, God, we'll never be able for it, And he said, why? Let's just do something now, and let's start training, and let's be ready for it. So Rob kind of said, okay, we'll do it. So we went back, we looked up online, we seen there was a group, but it was a bank holiday weekend, and I know myself, I thought, if I can come up with any excuse not to go on Tuesday, I'll be just delighted, because I just, that feeling of not wanting to actually identify what you need to do. You want to keep hiding. Yeah, it's scary. So we said we'll do it together. And the more Rob was on about the two of us doing together, I said, okay, we'll do it together. And we didn't tell anybody that we were doing it, just for the fear of failure, I think.
I think that's
in the first few days.
It's something we would say to a lot of our clients as well, and people who ask me. But I always say, don't tell as few people as possible.
Yeah.
Because the more people you tell, the more pressure. Particularly in the modern day that we live in terms of Twitter, in terms of social media, I see it all the time. You see people putting up their before pictures. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it. I think the more people that you tell, the harder it becomes. You surround yourself with a very tight network. That's what you guys did by the sounds, but your brother was a key instigator. He was a support factor, so you had support there, you had support at home, you had support together, so you kept it very, very tight.
Really, really tight. And like that, they just kind of would text us each week and say, well, how did it go, or whatever. And we got more confident as the weeks went on. Obviously we were losing more weight. We started to then tell our parents, tell more people. Obviously people were starting to notice it as well, or but we gradually increased the awareness of what we were doing, just for ourselves.
Okay.
Just to get used to it ourselves as well.
When we speak about social media, and we were only talking about it last night, I would be quite active on the likes of Twitter, but I made it a conscious decision not to put anything up about it until I actually got to what was my original target of 5 stone.
Okay.
So it was only after that. So I've probably made up for it since then with all the pictures before and after pictures I'm posting.
Well, I think people need to see that. I think I think there is a power in the before and after photograph at the end of that journey when you're there, and I think that's a motivator, and I'm sure it keeps you both motivated now.
Absolutely.
Okay, well let's pare it back a little bit then. In terms of what were the dramatic changes in terms of your diet? What were you eating beforehand, and what changes did you make?
I think there was we would have always both of us are good cooks. And we would have always had the concept that we were eating healthy, but I think it's when you're looking at the food, you're thinking you're eating healthy. And we spoke about Dermot Bannon on a Sunday night, and maybe watching the program. The kids have gone to bed. You've had a hard week and work and wherever, and you're sitting down to after your dinner, maybe having some wine and cheese or crip and dips and things like that. And it was the likes of them, I'm sure, that I'm not saying we thought they were healthy, but it wasn't like we were having 5 takeaways a week.
Okay. So it was weight that crept on over your weight crept on over time by the sound. So it wasn't just one really bad year. It was incremental over time.
Yeah. Over a number of years. I know. Well, I mean, we're together 20 years now. So I mean, I was probably always heavier than I am now. But I don't think I was as heavy as I was when I was almost 20 stone. But I can't
picture you 20 stone.
I'll show you the pictures.
I actually can't. Listeners, you'll see the photographs. We will post them up, but as part of the podcast series. But if you're sitting where I'm sitting now, you would not see a 20 stone man in this man's body whatsoever. Okay, so what? Break it down in terms of breakfast, lunch, and dinner for our listeners in terms of what you then began to eat. So what were the healthy versions of the meals? What was breakfast?
Well, I suppose breakfast now, and it's always been, is porridge and just different ways of doing porridge.
Oh, I love it. Okay. What's your favourite porridge tip to make?
Well, I never had porridge before, ever, until I started to, went on this journey. So, I probably wouldn't have had, a decent breakfast. I'd give myself the excuse, I'm too busy, and I'd go to work or whatever, but now I'd have the porridge. But at the weekends, we'd have porridge pancakes, or we might have baked porridge oats. So I love carrot cake baked oats, which is like having a little carrot cake for breakfast with a bit of, I'd have yogurt or whatever with it. So it's nearly like having a cake with cream for breakfast. And who doesn't want cake for breakfast?
Okay, so porridge for breakfast.
Yeah.
Lunch,
I suppose we'd have a lot of salads, maybe baked potatoes, or maybe fish.
Leftover pasta, meats, but plenty of veg, and snacking on fruit is the big thing, I suppose. But lunches for me in work would generally be salads, or maybe eggs and spinach, or baked potatoes, again topped with different veg and meats and that, so it's fairly simple enough. And
then dinner would be again your protein, loads of vegetables.
Yeah.
So it's a very simple, real way of eating is what you've done. This is not, I went on milkshakes for 4 months kind of thing, which is, if it was, I wouldn't have you on for a start, because that's not my style, and I don't believe in it. So how you're eating now is how people should actually eat. It's food you have to prepare yourselves.
Yeah.
You cook a little bit more, you prep a little bit more, but it's all very nutritious. It's all very straightforward.
Like everybody knows that fruit and veg is healthy for you, and you should have your 5 a day. Now we probably go to the extreme of our 5 a day, but I mean, everybody knows what they should be eating, and it's so simple just to bring it in. People always say to us, like, how did you change? Like, back to the concept of what we thought was healthy. Like, we were having maybe, fajitas with the fajita kit.
Oh, yeah.
And the likes of wraps, you always think, well, wraps are healthy because they're
huge in calories, yeah.
but they're not. And in those fajita kits, you'd have maybe 8 wraps in the pack, and then you're banging in olive oil and stuff like that. So they're little things that we've changed. But we would have easily had the 4 wraps each, and then you're sitting down to your wine and cheese afterwards.
Your portion size is probably decreased then, in terms of the quantity that you're eating, has it?
Yeah, I suppose in the likes of things like that now, if I was having a burger, I probably wouldn't even have a bun. I just would fill it up with lots of other things. But portion sizes have changed in different food types, I suppose. Like, obviously our porridge and our Weetabix and things like that, obviously we keep them to a minimum as well, because you don't want to be too full either. But the likes of, I suppose, veg and greens and things like that, like we would have a lot, but we wouldn't match the other food groups as well. So it's not like we're just having a huge amount of one and a tiny little bit of the other. We try and kind of, I suppose, spread it out a little bit more evenly as well. And then the likes of treats and things like that we'd have, because we still have treats, obviously.
We asked it to pretty much every guest who comes into the Real Health podcast. What's your favourite treat? What are your treats? What do you like?
It sort of varies.
You can have one.
Yeah, like I love the curly whirlies that.
Oh yeah,
the curly whirly is good. So
I love more desserts, so I like kind of meringues and things, because I love to bake as well. So I kind of had to knock that on the head for a while as well. But
the likes of the meringues, and then topped with all these sort of low fat, zero fat yogurts that we have now. But like if you mix the meringue and the, say, coconut yogurt and blueberries or strawberries and raspberries, like you feel like you're having this amazing dessert, and it's generally sort of low calories. It's not that you're counting the calories, but it's
well, I think you need that bit of balance. I think long-term health is about balance. We've always promoted that, because you need the treat meal or the treat whatever, because that's now some people don't like the word treat. I personally don't have an issue with it. I think that's how I do it myself. So that's what I would know. Okay, so in terms of our listeners, then the trigger point was the first thing. You had a trigger point. You saw the photograph. You didn't feel good. That was the trigger. B, you had an instigator, both yourselves, but in your brother, by the sounds of things, and an event, a target to work towards. The fear factor kicked in, which is I can't do it, and you got around that by having support.
Yeah.
You changed your food by eating real foods, eating very healthy, but cooking a little bit more.
Yeah.
Again, these are really simple tools that our listeners can take away, which is great. In terms of exercise, and so the key thing, Rob, for you was you're running towards your kids in the park. I can see it. This is you can see it. It's almost like a movie moment where you stop and the chest gets kind of sore, and you get the kind of panic of fear of I've actually got this unhealthy. So then, talk us through what happened then. What kind of exercise did you do? What was the next step?
It was probably more at home during every week we went in and we got weighed, and we were mastering the food. We were supporting each other. So if we had bad weeks or good weeks, the two of us were doing well. We'd still high five each other. You doing well, I didn't do so well, and vice versa. But the majority of the time, the both of us were doing really well. But then at home, like the food was good, but then we had to bring some sort of exercise into it. So Yvonne bought me a Fitbit, which probably added to me skipping at 11:45 in the evening to try and get the steps up. So just simple things at home, the jumping jacks, the squats, the skipping and things like that. And trying to, I start doing then the couch to 5K. It was hard at the start, but now I try and run 5K once, twice a week. The most recent one just being Saturday, 2 days ago. So I try to do it all the time, but it's a long way from where I was, and I still do those skips and squats. And I blamed the ad break challenge. Came into a certain program.
So
actually,
I'd love to
this
claim
year
that
was the
it's
first
not
time
mine.
we were able to do it properly.
Yeah.
Like, we nearly would have been out of breath even trying to do the ad break challenge.
But the story behind that, it wasn't mine. Sinead, if you're listening in, it was Sinead Simfik's idea. And when the idea was put to me, it's like, oh my God, this is brilliant, it's really clever. So we put a whole batch of exercises in. And no one really, including myself, realised just how long the ad break was.
Yeah.
And we put like squats, and there was some really hard exercises in that first year. Yeah. I remember trying it at home myself. This is 3 minutes of whatever it was. It was sprinting on the spot or something like that. But they're simple, they're fun, and they get the family involved and the family engaged, and it scares some people because they can't do it. And that provides a bit of a a kind of a trigger point to get them moving.
Yeah.
So there was no structured exercise program. There was a couch to 5K. So there was a cardiovascular program there.
The both of us tried to do that together, the couch to 5K. And back then, I suppose, and still now, we were doing it late in the evenings because the boys were gone to bed, so we wanted to go out and do her half hour. Then when she came back in, so sometimes it was,
and that's
9
normally
o'clock,
a time
9:30.
that people find the excuses, isn't it? It's it's late.
Yeah.
I've had a really busy day. I haven't, whatever. But the trigger point was strong enough for you both that you overrode that and said, no, I'm going to do it. And because you had each other together to work towards, I think that is something that our listeners could certainly literally take home. That if you have a partner on board, you have that support, which is, this is your half hour, out you go, and I'll stop you when you come back in or whatever.
Yeah. And we couldn't have done it without each other. And that was a huge point. And it's something that we always talk about. Having each other throughout the whole process of it. We wouldn't have coped without each other, and like, we can't say that enough. And that goes for the exercise, the food, the supporting each other, the good days, the bad days. Doing it together has really resulted in the results that we've got.
Yvonne, what was the hardest part? It's all been very sunshine and roses so far. No weight loss journey is ever sunshine and roses for the whole journey. What was the hard bit? Or was there maybe more than one?
Sometimes I suppose, I know I did have one, it wasn't Christmas gone, but it probably was the Christmas before, and I got really upset because I felt pressure from other people telling me I wasn't having a good time, and it's Christmas, you need to enjoy yourself, sure, it's only Christmas, everything was going on, and I felt like people were nearly trying to sabotage us, but it wasn't. I got really upset because I went home and I said to Rob, if I had an issue or an addiction to alcohol, it'd be easier for people to say, actually, do you know what, leave her alone. Mm-hmm. But because it was food and I wasn't eating something, they were like, okay, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you having that? And you're obsessed with your weight, and it was really unhealthy for me at the time, and I got really upset over it, and then, I don't know, we went away for a night or something like that, and we just said, here, let's draw a line underneath it. And we looked at the bigger picture and said, do you know what? Let them kind of, if they're going to get really annoyed and upset over what I'm doing with my life, well, then they need to have a look at their own lives.
And have you lost any people along the way of the journey? Not saying
that you've lost people or friends, because everybody is so supportive all the time. Of course, yeah. But I think it bothered some people
that you were doing so well.
We were doing so well.
Yeah.
So the likes of the drink, in one way, I suppose we did cut down a huge amount of drink.
I mean, we stopped drinking at home. We stopped drinking wine.
Yeah.
So...
Were you midweek wine drinkers?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah.
To the extent that Rob's parents have a house in the south of France, and we actually, we were nearly afraid to go to France, thinking, how are we going to cope? But we actually managed to, we said, if we can go to France and not have any pastries and no red wine, we can survive anything. So we did. Yeah, and that was a completely different holiday. And even my family, when I came home, said, God, you really enjoyed that, because we were sending photographs, we were telling them all the different things we were doing, whereas before it was just probably having wine, sitting by the pool and doing nothing else.
You don't actually miss it. Well, I mean, obviously I was sort of a late drinker because I had epilepsy as a kid. That's when I started putting on weight, because I had to give up the sport, the tablets and the lack of sport probably added the weight. But when you look back now, it was probably an excuse as well. But I was late coming to drink. The drink and the tablets didn't work together either. So in my sort of mid-20s, I started drinking and then again made up for it. But I think when you stop for a while, you don't miss it. And you certainly don't miss hangovers and everything else.
And do you drink, either of you drink now?
Yeah,
like you're going to a concert tonight.
Although we probably won't even have anything tonight. I don't know. We're both up for work as well, so early in the mornings. Yeah. So
Yeah, it's not something that you think, oh, we're going here, we have to have a drink. You know,
Yeah.
you actually don't have to have a drink, and you enjoy things better. And as I say, the hangovers, like we were only talking as well, the likes of headache tablets and stuff like that, I haven't touched them at all
No.
in 2 years. I haven't had a headache. Heartburn, I used to get terrible. Haven't had heartburn. So just things like that. When I know somebody said historically let food be our medicine, but it's definitely true, because I don't touch medicine now at all. I don't touch the tablets, the headache tablets, anything like that. So, and it has to be to do with the food that you're eating, and the more healthier food, like the fruit and veg and the plant-based food that you're eating.
And what was your hardest moment then? So Yvonne's was very much that moment of you felt people were trying to not sabotage, but impact on the progress that you were making.
Yeah.
And that's emotionally very difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
And I think that's a real Irish thing, actually. I think we're very good at that. I don't think we necessarily intend it in a bad way, but that we're almost trying to pull people back a little bit because we're a little bit envious of what they've done. So Rob, what was your hardest part?
Yeah, I think it was the same. And people telling you, you know, when you lost 2 or 3 stone, maybe that's enough, maybe you need to stop. But I don't think there was any sort of critical moment that, you know, it was that hard. You know, there was times, I suppose, where I'm in work, I'm surrounded by events and pastries and sandwiches, and it's just being that disciplined person that you have to be. And you have to be disciplined, but you have to be consistently disciplined. So I just totally cut out the pastries. So it was hard at the start, but I kind of got through it. And now, like, I'm at events 3 or 4 times a week, and now I don't even look at the pastries. Now I know there's always that fruit table somewhere there. I can go over and get the skewers or the whole fruits or things like that. So it was hard at the start, and people, again, what Yvonne was saying, people are saying, yeah, go on, sure, have that. But you knew yourself, you couldn't, and it's nearly what Yvonne was saying. Like, if you were an alcoholic, somebody wouldn't say to you, I should just have the one drink, you'd be fine. You know, it's a little bit like that, but it's just being disciplined and knowing, look, I'm not going to have that. I might have something later on, and I'll have our treats, as we were saying, later on in the evening. So we kind of kept the evening to the treats, but people trying to push things on you, or even putting something in front of you and saying, sure, have that, there's only a little bit of butter in it, you know, there's only a little bit of cream in it. And you're like, no, I don't want it. And because that's not the way I'm eating now. I know it sounds bad. It's nothing to do with the food that you've put in front of me as such, but no, well, I'll have my own things.
So again, basically, even from what you're saying there in terms of the Danish to the fruit skewers, that's a lovely little tip. Like, if we can all make that little change at that meeting, at that breakfast meeting, or at that lunch meeting, go for the real foods, as opposed to the processed foods. That's all it really is. It's kind of basically what you're saying.
I think we're hooked on products. That's the problem is the processed food and the products. And like that at events, we thought we had healthy foods by having these little porridge pots, you know, that you just add water. But they're laced in sugar and stuff already, and it's the powdered milk they already have in it. So they're actually not that healthy, where you can just get the bag of porridge and make your own porridge.
Yeah, so again, make your food real and make it real. In terms of discipline, so people who get healthy, who lose weight and get fit, the initial curve is like really good. The weight loss falls off, discipline's really good, motivation's really good. Then it plateaus normally, and then it goes into a decline. What are your tips for keeping that discipline going? Like, how have you guys found the will to keep going, to keep the discipline really good, to keep your weight loss consistent and your results consistent?
Well, I think for me, it was always why we started. Like, we've got 2 young boys, so you got to think of that all the time. The reason I done this was because I want to be able to play with the kids. I want to be able to run with the kids. I couldn't at the start. And that always, throughout the whole process of it, if I was going to open that press and put my hand in and get the chocolate or the biscuits or whatever, I'd stop myself and think, Rob, why did you start doing this? Why do you want to do that? And I think you continue that, and that continues with you. That even at the stage that we're at now, I still think, like, do you want to go back to that person, or do you want to be the healthier person that you are now? So I think it's just remembering why you started in the first place.
So it's making that choice with the right reason behind it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the reason, the trigger has to be strong enough that you override a strong enough will to make the right choice. Yvonne, what about you?
I suppose for me as a mother, I always feel with the 2 boys, like, and I'd feel that if it's trying to educate them about making the right choices towards food, like, and they have a really healthy relationship with food. We're so lucky that they actually eat really well. But I suppose I'd be upset if I thought that they were kind of, you know, with all childhood obesity or anything like that, like, and, you know, if they were kind of in a position that was compromising their health and it was my fault, I would feel to blame, you know, and I'd say, God, what did that mother feed them? Or, you know, I think you have this kind of pressure of blame on yourself. But I think for me that was a big thing. I wanted them to be kind of, you know, involved in it, immersed in it, and see the healthier side of us, like from just making some slight changes in our food. You know, like we always ate well, like they always had their vegetables and their meats and different things like that. But I think their awareness of healthy food for me is a big bonus. And like, you know, we're all having the same breakfasts, we're having the same dinners. Our
one
bill,
family, one meal.
Yeah.
And
our bill in
morning.
the supermarket has gone way down, which is great. But even though we're buying so much more.
So often you hear the excuse, which is, oh, being healthy is so expensive. I can't afford it. It's so expensive. And the reality is, it's not. The veg, a big bag of veg for €30. You have 2 or 3 bags of vegetables coming out of the supermarket.
We're always amazed when we come home and we put it out on the table and it's just all veg, and we're like, oh my God, like that was, as you say, €30 for all of that. Like, you know, it's and then you could spend like €50 on 5 little small things. You know, that's not going to last like 3 days.
We probably go to the shops more often, 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And we always say, like, the program that we were on and the concept of it was nearly like being back in the 80s where it's meat and 2 veg. And I used to always slag me nanny when she used to go to the shop every single day, because every single day she was going to get fresh fruit, fresh veg, you know, fresh meat, all for the dinner. But we're actually doing that now that, you know, the boys don't always like it when you're going to Lidl and Aldi and Super Value, you know, and other shops, you know, 3 or 4 times a week. But we do, because we're stocking up and we're eating that much fruit, and we have to stock up the fruit bowl. Like, if the fruit bowl is looking a little bit empty at home, you know, we need to go to the shop quick. And it is that, you know, it's very expensive to be healthy. It's not, because the supermarkets now are so good with the fruit and veg. Like, throughout all the supermarkets, they all have veg that's under €1 for a bag of it. So if you're doing your shopping in different places, like, it's so affordable to eat healthy. Back to what you asked though a second ago, the other reason was I've no more clothes, Carl, to wear. If I was to put on weight now, I would have no clothes to wear. They're all chucked out.
I was just going to go down that route to finish with. You both must have had some crack getting the new wardrobes and buying the new clothes. Like, that must have felt.
It took a while to get used to actually going to smaller sizes.
Well, what can I ask what dress size you were?
Yeah, so I was probably, like, I know the dress that I bought for the wedding that we went to in Spain was a 16.
Okay.
So like, and that fitted me snugly, you know. So I mean, I was being nice to myself, but like, and now I'm buying 8s. And to me is like,
literally half.
Like, literally, how did this happen? And I forget every night. And my mum could have been, because she'd always do the shopping with me, and she'd be picking up things and say, "Oh no, that won't fit you. Sorry, I'll put that back over there. Oh no, oh yeah."
So the huge adjustment period.
Yeah, it really was.
The perception of
I'm
the
used to it
actual
now.
size that you were.
Yeah.
You thought you were a lot bigger.
Yeah.
Wow.
And even like that, you know, she'd be picking up things and she'd say, "Oh, I seen that," and then you'd say, "But that won't fit me, ma'am," and she'd be like, "Oh God, yeah," you know, because I was so long buying bigger clothes, like, you know. And even for Rob, I'd be going in, and now, like, kind of, Rob has found a new hobby of shopping, whereas he never went shopping before and never bought anything.
Yeah, men are desperate at that, particularly men if they have a little bit of weight on. They hate the experience of shopping. Like, Rob, what trouser size, jean size were you?
I think jeans, I was probably 40, 42.
Okay.
Yvonne got me a pair of Paul Galvin jeans, which is funny
weird.
enough, you know. Kerryman jeans as a dub is bad enough, but they were size 28 and I actually fit into them.
Whoa.
So it was...
Little boys' clothes.
Actually, if I could save money by shopping in the boys section, I probably would. Anyway,
we're saying a 44/42 down to a 28.
Yeah, and probably in fairness, in most jeans and trousers, probably 30. Yeah. And the blazers that I wear, because I wear a lot of suits and wear 50, and they're down to 38.
Whoa.
And my favourite stat was I had to get my ring in Applebee's resized, and I went down 7 ring sizes. So I don't know how big or small that is, but I know I went down 7 ring sizes.
There are huge numbers between the pair of you. Like, from a 16 to an 8, from a 50 to a 38 on the chest, from 44 to a 30/28 in Paul Gavin jeans on your hips the numbers are massive. And listening to your stories, it's phenomenally, and I don't mean this in a bad way, it's simple.
So simple.
People try to complicate weight loss. I mean that as the ultimate compliment, by the way.
Absolutely.
People try to complicate weight loss and the process of it and make it really hard. And as a brand and myself, that's not what we sell. We sell it very simply. We sell exactly like what you guys have done, which is eat clean, eat often, and exercise more, and just find something that's fun. But the key thing, and listeners, if you are listening in and weight loss is something that you're thinking of, or not even weight loss, maybe a fitness target, such as something scary like a marathon, whatever it is, it all comes back to the same thing. It's a trigger point. It's the reason that you want to do it, and that reason has to be strong enough to overcome the obstacles that get in the way. Surround yourselves with positive people. Simple. Find a system that works for you. Eat healthily. Eat real food. Simple. And get some exercise in from there, and then the odd treat. Final question for you both. What's next? You've had this amazing journey over the course of the last probably year and a half, thereabouts, to be fair. Again, the guts of 13 stone. Visualize that. That's basically me, or thereabouts. Being generous to myself there, but it's thereabouts.
I'm just amazed that I'm actually lighter than Karl Henry. I think that's an achievement in itself.
I love it. And Yvonne, what about you? This may become work in some way, shape or form now as well.
Yeah, well, I also decided to do a master's in education in the meantime as well. So that took up, so I started off, as I say to Mum, I started off in Trinity as a size 16 and finished in a size 8, which wasn't to do with the stress of the programme. But so I mean, I have that, which is my big love, is my work with my children in intellectual disability. But at the moment, I suppose I am doing a bit of a sideline in that I'm working for Slimming World. And I have set up a new group, so we'll be relaunching on the 29th of May. So it is pretty busy at the moment. Okay, cool. But like that, as we said, it has become such a big part of our life at the moment. And I suppose if we can help anybody else and get them on that journey as well, sure, that's what it's be all worth it,
And Rob, if people want to follow you on Twitter,
Rob Cullen 79.
Yvonne, you on Twitter?
No. But I'm old school, so I'm on Facebook and I'm Yvonne Slimmer World, actually, yeah. And I'm on Instagram as well, but I'm only learning.
I think the key thing, what Yvonne said, is just to help other people. If we can help other people and encourage couples, and it's one tip as well that we give to everybody. If you can do it together or find a partner to do it with you, it's so much easier. The process is so much easier. Those nights where you're thinking your partner's having a takeaway, will I have a takeaway or will I eat healthy? That never came into the equation. If one of us wanted a takeaway, the other one was kicked up the backside quick enough to say, no, you're not having a takeaway. I'll make a curry, So, but doing it together was definitely, and if we can help other people, going forward, whether it's through the Slim World program that Yvonne's doing, or I do a few talks on it as well, just anything that we can do to help couples, men especially. I think men are a bit fearful of going to different groups. We've seen it over the last year and a half, 2 years, that there's not an awful lot of men go to these classes and these groups. So it could be something that I look into further to see if we can actually help people and encourage them to go, or maybe they just want to do it in private. So it
has to be fun. Has to be fun.
Of course, yeah.
There has to be a fun element in it. You have to be able to laugh and joke and smile, and all of your emotions are exposed. So you have to be comfortable. I think being comfortable in yourself at that time and being ready for it is such a big thing. Because you've got
to be ready to make those changes. Yeah. Of course, that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
Well, listeners. Wow, nearly 13 stone between this couple. We will have some photographs up on independent.ie and on the Irish Independent app. You're going to see those as well, just to prove to you what I'm seeing here in studio. It's absolutely amazing. As ever, if you have any questions, you can email us. It's realhealth@independent.ie or the hashtag realhealthpodcast. You can contact me on Twitter and Instagram with that. Thank you so much for listening in. I hope you've taken lots of tips and lots of inspiration from our two fantastic guests today, and we'll see you next week. Have a great week.
Laya Healthcare. It's good to live. Proud sponsor of the Real Health podcast with Karl Henry.